I'm back. What's up, guys? It's Rick from DFS On Demand here with your DFS preview for the Greenbrier Classic, also known as a military tribute at the Greenbrier. We're here. The longest, aka the shortest offseason in sports. 3 weeks ago was the Tour Championship. The 2019-2020 PGA Tour season starts right now. We have a lot to talk about because in those 3 weeks, I've been working hard to create a lot of new things on the site and on the channel, so I want to cover those first. If you're new to the YouTube channel, welcome. It's going to be an awesome year. What you're looking at here is a lot of data-driven research on tools that I create myself. Everything that you see me talk about in the video or use in the video is available on my site, which is dfsondemand.com. There's a link in the description. This is not a tout service. We're not going to just go over lineups. I'm not going to give you lineups. It's bad for the industry. It's bad for everybody. So we're just going to talk about a lot of the data behind the course, the players, guys that are trending in the right direction or trending in the wrong direction every single week. This DFS preview will be available every Monday on both the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, wherever else. That'll be available on Monday. Tuesday is usually our day for one and done pools, but one and done pools usually don't start until January, so I'll fill Tuesdays up with something. Might be betting previews, which will come usually on Wednesdays after January 1st. So we'll throw that content in, and then for Thursdays for this year, I'm going to enter the $200 single entry on DraftKings every single week, and I will post all of the lineups in a spreadsheet. We'll keep track of the results. We'll follow it all season long. We'll talk a lot about contest selection, the other players, the other owners in that contest, and how we do over the course of a year. That's going to replace some of the other follow-along type of video series that we have done in the past. So that's what we're going to do for this season. It will come out Thursday mornings at the time that lineups lock. I will show you my lineup and we will go through the lineup building process, but I won't release it until the tournament actually starts, so you can watch that on Thursday. Fridays are kind of up in the air at this point, looking into maybe doing some live stream stuff, maybe doing some Q&A, some sweats on Friday morning or Friday afternoon with the tournament. We'll see how that goes in the swing season. We're going to experiment a lot. Okay. There's also a bunch of new tools on the website that you're going to see. I've added a lineup optimizer. I've given you access to my strokes gained database. I've completely redone the player profile tool. There's just a lot. There's showdown information on there. There's just going to be a lot more information and kind of tweaks as we go, but I'm really proud of what's on the site right now. My goals were to not only give you more information and more data, but also make it a little easier to use and a little easier within your research process. So still great things coming, but I'm really stoked with what's on the site right now. All right. There are a few ways for you to support this channel and everything else. You can join DFS On Demand. There is a promo code RickRunGood in the YouTube channel for 20% off. You can, and we'll do a giveaway every single week. If you would like to win a week's access to DFS On Demand, join us in the Slack channel, get access to all the tools that you see. There's a couple ways to do that. Make sure that you are subscribed to my channel, this YouTube channel, like the video, and comment below for this week who the best Korn Ferry Tour graduate is going to be. Who's going to finish in the best position? There's going to be a lot of them this week, so we'll talk about those guys in a bit. That's one way. Number two, wherever you're listening to your podcast, give it a 5-star review. Give it a 5-star, write a review, just say something nice about the show, move on. Or now you can make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, leave a comment on something, and we will enter you into the draw as well. All of those descriptions will be below, or all of those links will be in the description below. Let's see. I think that is about everything that I needed to cover. Let's jump in to the Greenbrier. All right. A military tribute at the Greenbrier. This is played at the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia. The Old White TPC, great name. It's a par 70. It'll play about 7,300 yards, but there are a lot of unique factors about this week in particular. So first of all, on the course, it features a par 3 as the 18th hole, something you do not see often on the PGA Tour. And if you're going to the event, make sure that you post up there at 18, because this is where they hand out cash when guys make hole-in-ones. Or holes in one, right? $100 for the first one, $500 a person for the second, and $1,000 for the third ace of the week. I would post up there all week if you're going to be there. Additionally, this tournament was not played last season because was it last season? I guess it was last season because of the Olympics. Is that right? Well, last time it was supposed to be played, it was because the new scheduling update got rid of it. It was a casualty because of the Olympics. And then like in 2015-16, that season, remember this course got completely flooded out like 2 weeks before they had this horrific storm, really decimated the area, and this event was canceled. So when we look back at course history, it's a little scattered all over the place. This is now at a new time in the season where it's going to lead off the new swing season, or we're not supposed to call it the swing season anymore, where it's going to be the first event of the year. It used to be played in like July. So Kevin Na, technically your defending champion here. He won it 2 years ago, and he will be returning to defend that champion or that win. Xander Schauffele has won this event before. We're looking at winners in probably the mid-teen under par range, 14, 15 under. That usually is a number that will do it for you. So let's kick over to the cheat sheet here and see if we can find any good values. If you're new to the channel, this cheat sheet, I attempt to put everything that I can in one spot for you. Sorted by salary, I've got floor, median, and ceiling projections. I have the golfer's strokes gained data from the previous year. I have their recent form worldwide, and then I have their tournament history. So again, on tournament history, you see there is no 2019 event, and there is no 2016 event, okay? So keep that in mind. And the recent tournaments are worldwide. I did not include the 2 Euro events that we just had, which were the Omega Masters and the Porsche Championship, because no player in the field played in either one of those. So I'll add them back in when we get into fields where some of those guys have played, like, Paul Casey and Matt Kuchar. When they start playing in PGA events, I'll add those back in. But for now, I'm going to leave them out for a little bit of screen real estate. All right, we have 5 guys over $10,000, led by Bryson DeChambeau at $11,100. Victor Hovland comes in at $10,900. Jason Kokrak, $10,500, probably the most expensive he's ever been in his entire life. Mark Leishman, $10,200, and Bubba at $10,000. I'm pretty willing to write off Bryson kind of out of the gate here. He was a little volatile down the stretch for me. Played well at the Tour Championship, but his results were all over the place. I don't think I want to spend $11,100 for him when there's some really good guys right below. And I think that's going to be a similar sentiment across the industry. I think a lot of people will just kind of write off Bryson out of the gate, because Victor Hovland at $10,900 is where everyone is going to be super excited to start their lineups here. He is statistically one of the best players, even if it is a limited sample size, off the tee, which is going to be important this week, on approaches. Played himself into his PGA Tour card when he was playing on the tour last season before going back to the Korn Ferry. His last 4 starts were 13th at the Rocket Mortgage, 13th at the 3M, 16th at the John Deere, and a 4th at the Wyndham. The guy continues to knock on the door. Stellar talent. But I'm actually interested in Jason Kokrak. And while I'm thinking about this, let's just do it. I'm going to pull up the game logs. These are the new game logs for this year. We should have much more complete data sets. And I'm just going to look up Jason Kokrak here. And I guarantee this is the most expensive he's been. Yeah, since I have data, which is probably back 2 or 3 seasons for salaries, by far the most expensive he's ever been. Last time he was he's only been over 9,000 once, 9,400. He finished 7th at the Valero Texas Open. He is actually 10,500 this week. But I really like the form that he's in and his ability to hit the ball off the tee. Okay, so I'm going to show you key stats for this course in just a minute. But his stretch, Jason Kokrak coming down the stretch, 6th at the Wyndham, 12th at the Northern Trust, 19th at the BMW, and 14th at the Tour Championship is an unbelievable run, especially as those fields just continue to get more difficult. Additionally, you throw in the fact that he finished third here at the Greenbrier the last time that it was played. You add a little bit of tournament history, a little bit of good vibes, and that's a combination that I like to invest in. I assume a lot of the ownership is going to, it's going to be sucked up by Victor Hovland here. So if you want any of these other guys over 10,000, I think you're going to get them at a pretty good number. I'm not interested in Leishman at 10.2. I'm not interested in Bubba at 10,000, who is probably just here because I think he has a home at the resort, and it's a easy little trip for him. Now, I could just go player by player here, but I actually want to jump over to the course key stats. This is brand new for this season. It is what I think is much improved, and I'm really excited to show you and talk about it. So if you know from the past, what I would do is I would run a regression model of all the PGA Tour stats and compare them to each golfer's finishing position and see if we can create course fits. So which stats are most important at each course, and then find the players that are good at those stats. In theory, it is very simple. In practice, it's a little more difficult. So now what I have here are the 145 stats. There's more than this on the PGA Tour, but these are like the standard ones per round that are kept by the PGA Tour. And I've run them against every player and their finishing position for the last handful of years. Now, the Greenbrier, because we missed 2 years of it, we do have a smaller sample size. So we're not saying this is as important as maybe like the John Deere Classic or something like that, where it's just kind of always at the same course and we never miss a year. But it's still very important. And across the top, I've actually had to split this into 3 different sections here because it's a little confusing. I've ranked the Greenbrier and every course by the most important stats. So in theory, approaches from 200 yards or more are more important at the Greenbrier than any other course on the PGA Tour out of 49. Now, we can argue that could be a small sample size, approaches over 200 yards, guys that are usually hitting from there. There just might not be a lot. Consecutive fairways hit also ranks up here. So that one is very noisy. I would not look into that at all. But you see what I'm getting at here. Which stats are more important at the Old White TPC than any other course? Then I have the highest correlated stats, which is almost always just going to be scoring average, strokes gained total, strokes gained tee to green. Of course, the better players end up finishing better than their peers. That happens a lot. And then I rank this one. This one's new for this year, and this is what I really like, is I took the most common stats, the ones that I think are the best because we have a large sample size. The strokes gained stats are great. We have a huge sample size to work with. Everyone gets ranked on them. It's just a really good place. And then I do like driving distance, driving accuracy, things that in theory should affect a player over a specific course. Not something like approaches from 250 to 275 yards from the right rough. Sure, that might be the most important stat of a week, but how serious can we take it, right? There might be like 3 shots from there every single week. All right, so what we get out of this is, of course, strokes gained tee to green and strokes gained total are going to be very important. But we also see that off the tee ranks 13th out of 49 PGA Tour courses in terms of importance, and strokes gained approach is 17th out of 49. So both of them basically in the top third of all PGA Tour courses. Shocked to see that birdie or better percentage was actually dead last here. That is not something we see almost ever. I guess some course has to be last, but it might just be a symptom of our small sample size. Obviously, I'm not going to avoid guys that make birdies, but I just try to point out what's going on here. So let's scroll down and actually look at this. So you can see I give you the ability to actually sort by any stat that you want. Any one of these crazy stats, you can go see the player in the field and their rank. But if we let's look at strokes gained off the tee here. Victor Hovland gains over a stroke per round off the tee compared to his peers. It's the best in the field. He's 10,900. Bubba Watson is second on this list. The problem with Bubba is he loses strokes on approaches. When Victor Hovland gains another stroke on approaches, Jason Kokrak gains 3 strokes per round on approaches. Of the 10,000 guys, a lot of them are good off the tee, as they should be. Bubba's the one that really struggles with those second shots that we already know are going to be important this week. 17th out of 49 for the old white TPC. If you're looking at pure value here, Brendan Steele is 4th in strokes gained off the tee. Kevin Streelman is on this list. Sepp Straka, all in the top 10, all under $9,000. And then if we flip to strokes gained approach, a lot of the same names here. Victor Hovland, Jason Kokrak. Those are guys that are going to make a lot of my lineups. I don't know how I'll distinguish between them right now. I assume that if you're looking for a contrarian play, Kokrak is going to come in at a lower ownership. Hovland, I think, is going to be pretty chalky. Both set up really, really good here. And if you continue to go down the list, Hovland is great off the tee. He's the best in the field. He's the best in approaches. Both of these guys are almost identical, losing a quarter of a stroke per round around the greens. And Jason Kokrak, basically a neutral putter, while Victor Hovland loses about a quarter of a stroke on the green. So really, really interesting stuff here. I thought that Keegan Bradley jumping out at 9,100 to me was a little bit of a surprise. And I'm going to flip back to the cheat sheet here because I want to show you who he's around. Keegan is one of the better players in the field off the tee. He's elite in this field from tee to green. He's got a 13th place finish the last time this tournament was played. He has a 4th back in 2014. He hasn't missed a cut in at least his last 5 starts here at the Greenbrier. I'm wondering if this is an opportunity to fire up Keegan, where, around him is Kevin Na, your defending champion, who will probably capture a little ownership because of that. Scotty Scheffler, who everyone is super stoked to roster, who I'll talk about more in a second. I'm wondering if Keegan just kind of goes a little bit forgotten here, and maybe we can get a little leverage play on him as the week develops and we see what the ownership starts to drum up. Now, I do want to spend a lot of time and maybe the rest of our time on the Korn Ferry Tour graduates, because I think that is probably the most leverageable part of this week, where we have a lot of these new guys on tour. If you know who they are, I think you have a little bit of an advantage. The silly NFL guys who have money from week 1 on DraftKings, they might throw some lineups in, and there's going to be a lot of guys they don't recognize. So I want to get you accustomed to and introduce you to a few of these Korn Ferry guys. They provide value, and I think they provide a lot of leverage. So I mentioned Scotty Scheffler earlier. He's 9,300. I believe he is, I guess out of the pure Korn Ferry Tour guys, I guess Hovland's more expensive. Joaquin Niemann, he's played on the PGA Tour. Scotty Scheffler's basically, the most expensive true Korn Ferry Tour guy. And if we go over to the new strokes gained database, which again, I'm giving you access to my database of strokes gained statistics for every single round dating back to 2016. Let's see if we can find Scotty really quickly here. And wow, there's a lot of Scotts. Okay, here we go. Scotty Scheffler. So I only have 26 measured rounds on him. Of course, not every event is measured, and he doesn't play a lot on the PGA Tour with ShotLink data. But you can see when he does play, plays pretty well, even up here on the big tour, right? So he averages about a half a stroke gained off the tee. So that would put him, let's go back and see where that would put him. Basically, if he had enough rounds, he'd be 4th off the tee, right? If he had enough rounds to qualify, if we used his entire career average. Approach, he gains about 0.39, so that would put him on approaches about, 20th or so, 18th or 20th, which is, again, very good. And, he did play on the PGA Tour last year. He made 3 out of 4 cuts. The only cut he missed was at the US Open, which I think we can forgive him for. 2 wins, 2 second-place finishes on the Korn Ferry Tour. He had top 10s in half of his events, so I don't think there's really nothing to knock. The kid's clearly on the up and up. I think he's going to make a lot of noise on the PGA Tour this year, and it might start here this week at the Greenbrier. Now, there's a few other guys I want to point out that I think open up a little bit more value, and they're all going to be fairly inexpensive here. The first one is Harry Higgs. He's $7,200, and I don't really even have anything to show you on him. He has grinded his way up the ranks. He was like PGA Tour Latin America, then he went to the Korn Ferry Tour. Now he's finally going to play his first PGA Tour event. But I'm a little nervous. This is his first PGA Tour event, but the guy's seasoned, right? He's not one of these young guys who, I don't think the stage is going to be necessarily too big for him. He's worked his way up. He's a true grinder. He won on the PGA Tour last season. He was 7th on the Korn Ferry Tour in scoring average. He played 22 events last year. He finished in the top 10 5 times. And he won I want to make sure I get this right. It's the best tournament name out there. The Price Cutter Charity Championship presented by Dr. Pepper. If you're not going to play that guy, who else are you going to play? All right. Next up, let's talk someone we have seen on the PGA Tour. Let's talk Hank Lebioda, not Lank Hebioda. And he is sitting at $6,800. And I do have something to show you on him. And this is now the new player profile tool, which I absolutely love. Much easier to see a player's results, their stats, their DraftKings scoring, their average price, their average salary, all that good stuff. So let's see if we can find our buddy Hank here. Oops, misclick. There we go. So here's Hank. I got to get a headshot for him. But what you can see is, he's played and did play a decent bit on the PGA Tour last season. What is this? He played a lot of events. You can see kind of all over the place. 91 points, 91 DraftKings points at the 3M Open, 86 at the Barbasol, 89 at the Valero Texas Open. The end of his season wasn't nearly as good. Missed the cut at the John Deere, made the cut at the Barbasol, but almost finished in last. Missed the cut at the Barracuda. Missed the cut at the Wyndham Championship. It wasn't a good run down the stretch for Lebioda, but he did play well when he had to go back to the Korn Ferry Tour and play their playoff events. He finished 11th and 19th in the last 2 playoff events. Even on the PGA Tour, the guy makes a lot of birdies. He was 21st in birdie average on the PGA Tour last year. And that makes sense. A lot of these Korn Ferry guys, a lot of these events are shootouts, and they have to make a lot of birdies. And Lebioda can do that, which makes him even in a more appealing DraftKings option because he's able to make so many birdies. I think there's a ton of value in Christopher Ventura, who is $6,300, nearly the min price. Was great on the Korn Ferry Tour last year. I believe he ended up finishing 2nd in scoring average. Do I have that right? I do. 2 wins last year, so he knows how to get himself into the winner's circle. And he's one of these Oklahoma State kids, right? That program breeds a lot of really young, really good, really ready, in the same way that Victor Hovland is ready, prospects. So the kid's really young. He did make the cut at the Valero Texas Open, which is the last PGA Tour event that he played. Impressive young skill set. He doesn't have as many. He won twice last year, and it was in basically half the rounds that Scotty Scheffler did, and Scotty Scheffler was number 1 in scoring average. So a little bit of a smaller sample size, which you can say is impressive, or you can kind of take it away from him. But 2 wins you can't take away from him, and he's $6,300. And then the last guy that I think is interesting is $6,500 is Chase Seifert. I think I can pull this up for you. Let me check real quick. Yeah, so here's Chase Seifert's strokes gain database, and he's been around for a while. My concerns are he was pretty bad on the Korn Ferry Tour down the stretch last season, but had a much better year outside of just like the last handful of weeks. He, if you look at this, so here's the Travelers Championship. He's played that a couple of times, finished T9 in 2018 at the Travelers Championship. So I like the upside of him in an actual PGA Tour event. And what I also like is he's one of the few graduates that we're getting injected with this season that has actually played the Greenbrier before. Now, the problem is he missed the cut, but he had a really bad Thursday, and he followed it up with a 65 in the second round on Friday. So it was at least he's able to go out and shoot a 65 at the Greenbrier. I'm hoping maybe, settle down a little bit after that first round. He won't have that problem getting into his start this week. But $6,500, any of these young guys, any of these guys down low are going to offer a lot of flexibility when it comes to who you're able to roster up top. All right, I think that's enough. A lot to go over this week. I will try to tweet out as much as I can. Make sure to follow me. It's at RickRunGood. Let me know which Korn Ferry Tour graduate is going to finish highest this week. Leave a comment below. Really looking forward to this season. Thrilled to have you guys here. Best of luck this week. Talk to you soon.